Is a tanto. Tanto is a small samurai sword, the smallest of the swords used for in-close fighting. The case is lacquered wood, and the fittings are all made of hand-carved water buffalo horn. They start out in a raw form. This is a rough-shaped piece that came out of a horn, and this is the last piece that I'm working on this morning to finish. On this piece, I'm going to be finishing it. It'll look like this when it's done, actually like this piece on the end, and I'll put it on the end of the case like this. It'll be a little bit smaller. That's the last and final job I'll be doing on this particular knife. The handle is wood covered in stingray skin. You can see the blue stingray skin, that's dyed. And then this is black leather. The leather is made from goat. There are different types of leather for Japanese swords. We use goat, deer, cow. And each different type of skin gives a different texture and feel and wears differently. It depends on the person who wants the piece, orders the piece, the type of material they'd like to use. The buffalo horn fittings are basically, as I said, carved and shaped and then polished. The ornaments under the handle wrap here are dragons on a double-edged sword blade. I hand-carved these fittings out of wax and cast them. Because I was a jeweler, I understand that process. I made jewelry for a living before I was a sword maker. So I wrapped, patinaed, and chased and wrapped these fittings on the handle for ornament as well as an aid to the grip. Your fingers hold around the manuki, it's called, and also under your palm here. And that's why there's crosses in the wrapping to give you grip. The blade is laminated sand iron steel. I start out with black sand from the riverbed. I have a secret spot in the United States where I go, I canoe over to and put it in a bucket and take it home, clean it. Then I take that sand iron and I smelt it in a furnace. And in the furnace, then I add carbon or ash, and I carbonize the iron, and it becomes a lump. And then I take that and smash it into little bits and stack it in a brick form, and that becomes my first billet. Then I forge weld that together and fold it to get all the impurities out, and depending upon how I fold it will determine its different grain pattern. And then after the billet is forged, I forge out the shape of the blade, then grind and file out the blade, then harden the blade. Now you'll notice on the edge it's creamy white or creamy gray, and the body of the blade has more of a metallic finish. That's the graining, and this creamy edge is the hard area. There's a transition between the hard and the soft. That transition line is called the hamon, signature of the edge. Each artist who makes samurai swords and has a high level of understanding can control that edge. When you're a beginner, there's not much control. It comes out as it comes out. So I designed the edge to be how I think it should look according to the style of knife. This is an older style blade from the Bizen or Koto era. The shape and the thickness and the geometry of it. The handle is a little bit more modern compared to the blade design as far as the way it's outfitted. However, the shape and the size is correct and time period. This piece here is pure copper, handmade. It's called a habaki. It's the collar for the blade, securing the handle to hold steadfast to the blade, and also it keeps the case on the knife. They're razor sharp, and of course they're used for fighting in close. Sometimes a talented tanto person could fight against a samurai sword, a long blade, with just this short blade and prevail, depend on the ability of the fighter, the samurai. Typically they were worn in the obi, or in the belt. This is a belt. Belt is obi in Japanese, like this. They were worn in close. The katana, the longer sword, was worn on the outside. Well, it was actually over through another loop in the belt. And then they were easily deployed you could just pull them out and fight from this position, and the case would stay in your belt. And samurai didn't wear wristwatches. So that's just because of modern times. So there's my tanto.